Hello friends, welcome into the Cowboys Report presented by BetDSI, the internet's #1 sportsbook. I am your host, Tom Downey, back again with some more Cowboys rumors, and I think you know what we're going to start off with here. That is the latest buzz around Scott Linehan, and is the Cowboys offensive coordinator going to come back? If you listen to only Jason Garrett, this sounds like 4 stars. I'm not as convinced. I am only going to give it 2 stars right now. I think things are very much up in the air, and things are very much undecided. Now, Jason Garrett did say on Monday on 105 through the Fan that he thought or expected Linehan to return to the Cowboys. Then Garrett kind of backtracked his comments and then kind of unbacktracked them again. So Garrett's kind of all over the map right now. The main overarching point here, though, is that Jason Garrett said no final decisions have been made yet. And so, too, did Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones. They have not decided what the coaching staff will look like next year for sure. Now, we know that Jason Garrett is very loyal to Scott Linehan, and he probably does want him back because that's who Jason Garrett is. He's a loyal guy, and Linehan's kind of a mentor to Jason Garrett. Now, with that said, if you're the Cowboys, and I think most of that front office is fairly smart, isn't it a good idea to evaluate things from behind the scenes, see what coaches you could get, who you couldn't get, maybe give Linehan some time to land softly on his feet if that's the route you want to take, which I don't care much for, but maybe the Cowboys and Garrett do. So I'm only going to give it 2 stars. I am not convinced Linehan will be back as the Cowboys offensive coordinator next year, mostly because there's no way in the right mind that the Cowboys could decide this is a good idea. Look at their offensive stats from this year. 22nd in yards per game. Same with points per game. The red zone offense was among the NFL's worst. Even the ground game wasn't that great. Only 10th by the end of the year. Passing yards per game were not that good. The Cowboys' points per game ranks under Linehan. A couple nice years in there, namely 2016, 2014, when things went really, really well. But for the most part, the Cowboys' offense has been league average at best. It's time for Linehan to go, and I know most of you feel the same way I do. You guys want Scott Linehan fired, and for good reason. I don't think he's done a good job as the coordinator, and my biggest problem with him, when the Cowboys need to make adjustments, when they need to tweak the offensive scheme, don't run the ball in 13 personnel, i.e. 3 tight ends, up the gut on 4th and 1, Linehan doesn't adjust and move forward with the times. He tends to kind of be more of the, I'm going to stick with what I know and stick with what I have done well in the past. So I think he has to go. If the Cowboys don't fire Scott Linehan, I will be profoundly disappointed in the front office and the upper management because I think it's a no-brainer. He has to go as the offensive coordinator. All right, folks, today's show is brought to you by BetDSI, the internet's #1 sportsbook. Head over to chatsports.com/bet. Use promo code Cowboys120 for a 120% deposit bonus. You put down $50, they're going to give you $60 for free. Put down $100, and they'll give you $120. $500, they'll give you $600 in extra bonus money to bet with. But you got to use chatsports.com/bet and that promo code Cowboys120. All right, some more Cowboys rumors. How about a Jason Garrett extension? We mentioned this about a week ago, and then Ian Rappaport, of course, brings it up again on Saturday before the Cowboys game. I'm going to stick with giving this one 3 stars. But again, much like Linehan, this is still not set in stone. Now, I know some of you guys don't like Garrett, and I totally understand why. There are reasons to not like him, namely the lack of true playoff success. But let's give him credit where it's due. He was a huge factor in saving the Cowboys season, and the players really do like him. Now, Garrett has 1 year left on his deal after this season. Now, Jerry Jones says no decision has been made, and I'll present to you a possible theory, or outcome, or whatever you want to end up calling it. What if you're the Cowboys, and you know Jason Garrett has 1 year left on his deal? Isn't it a lot easier to lure other offensive coordinators, other coaches to your staff when your coach has multiple years left on his deal? And also, if you do want an offensive coordinator, a new one in your Jerry and Stephen Jones, wouldn't it make sense to prevent that locked-in extension for Garrett until you get what you want when it comes to the OC? Maybe we come to a situation where Jason Garrett is told, we will give you an extension, but you have to let Scott Linehan go. If not, you guys are all coaching for your lives again next season. I think that makes sense for the Cowboys if that's the right you want to go, because we know that Jerry Jones does believe in Jason Garrett. He thinks that Garrett is the guy. He truly, I think, thinks that Jason Garrett is his own little Sean McVay, even though the offense not even close to it. So should the Cowboys extend Jason Garrett? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I am okay with it for one main reason. Just because you extend Jason Garrett doesn't mean you can't fire him next year if things go south, right? That's not how the NFL works with contracts. There's no dead money. There's no salary cap for coaches. Jerry Jones, as he's pointed out before, doesn't have time to have a bad time. So you can extend Garrett to help secure you a better offensive coordinator, even if you still want to move on from Garrett after next year. So just because there's an extension doesn't mean he'll actually coach it out. There's no salary cap for coaches. Let's talk players then. Sean Lee, is he going to retire? I'll give this one 2 stars after the Cowboys lost to the Rams. Sean Lee was kind of open about it. Said he'd evaluate his future this offseason and correctly points out, look, health is a big factor here. It's been a major issue. He just can't stay healthy. And he says trying to stay healthy is something he has to do if he wants to keep playing. The issue is Sean Lee hasn't been able to actually stay healthy. It's always been a problem for Sean Lee throughout his NFL career. He loves the Cowboys, and if Sean Lee is cut, traded, or retires, the Cowboys save $7 million in cap space. At his current contract, Sean Lee will not be back with the Dallas Cowboys, so it's either a massive pay cut, a cut and a re-signing, an outright release, or maybe Sean Lee retires and takes an assistant coaching job with the Dallas Cowboys. Just a theory there, but I do think retirement is a legitimate option for Sean Lee because of his massive injury concerns and problems in the past. All right, folks, subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/Dallas Cowboys Report. We'll have news, rumors, free agency, and NFL draft coverage all off season long. Just because the season is over does not mean we're done. Plenty of fan-led content too, like our fan rumors as well. So subscribe below, youtube.com/Dallas Cowboys Report. All right, some more rumors. Is Travis Frederick going to be back next season? Some negative news before that. Here's some positive news for you guys. This one's 3 stars for me. I do think you're going to see Travis Frederick back as a member of the Dallas Cowboys next season. Jason Garrett says he thinks Frederick will be good to go for the off-season program. Had a shoulder surgery cleanup last week, a promising sign that he is going to be good to go when we get to the off-season program later in March and beyond that. So that's very good news for the Cowboys and, of course, for Frederick. Now, Frederick, I said before, he's very confident that he'll return. I'll keep it at only 3 stars for now, just in case there's a flare-up again or if he really takes longer than I think he's going to get back. But I do fully expect that next season you are going to have Travis Frederick back as the Cowboys starting center. All right, next up, some more players. Let's move to the other side of the trenches, the defensive line, DeMarcus Lawrence, and will the Cowboys re-sign him? I'm going to give this one 3 stars. I will be stunned if he's not on the Cowboys next year. The alternative opening here is that, maybe they end up not doing a long-term extension. Maybe it only ends up being a single-year deal. Maybe it's just a franchise tag. Now, the Cowboys are going to make DeMarcus Lawrence a top priority. That I fully expect that this year. And at minimum, they will franchise tag DeMarcus Lawrence. But if a long-term deal can't be reached before you have to apply the franchise tag, Tank has made this fairly clear. He wants to get paid now. That's his number one priority, and I think rightfully so for an NFL player. Now, the franchise tag is going to be expensive, $20 million next year. But I think DeMarcus Lawrence is worth it. And oh, by the way, we'll get to this one now because I can't believe we still have to have this discussion. Of course DeMarcus Lawrence is worth re-signing, you guys. I can't believe there's a segment, I think it's a vocal minority segment, of the Cowboys fan base that doesn't want to re-sign DeMarcus Lawrence on the grounds that, well, he didn't show up against the Rams. Well, who did show up against the Rams? No one showed up. I'm not going to discount DeMarcus Lawrence's great season just because of that. Of course the Cowboys should re-sign DeMarcus Lawrence. It's a no-brainer. He needs to be back on the Dallas Cowboys. Here's my question. How do you get better or even stay the same if you get rid of the one consistent defensive lineman you have? I like Tyrone Crawford. I like Randy Gregory. Those guys are nowhere near on the level of DeMarcus Lawrence. Imagine thinking it's a good idea to not re-sign your best pass rusher and your best run stopper. That's a terrible idea. You better re-sign DeMarcus Lawrence. Open up the checkbook. He is absolutely worth it. All right, folks, if you guys like what I'm wearing, it's a Mizzen and Main shirt, so go get your own Comfortable.af. They make me look passable on air. Just think what they can do for you. Comfortable.af is the site. They make more than just shirts. They got some awesome sweaters over there. Go check out Mizzen and Main. All right, one last Cowboys rumor here for you guys, and we're going to talk probably not for the last time on this player, but that's David Irving. Did he skip his exit interview? Of course he did. 4 stars on this one. This is kind of like, well, of course he did. This is the least surprising news report ever. So Garrett said that he had exit interviews with about 65 of the Cowboys players, so almost their entire roster right now. They did not meet with David Irving. Irving, by the way, has skipped multiple mandatory drug tests, so why is it a surprise, it shouldn't be, that he would not show up at the exit meeting? Look, David Irving is an immensely talented player. When on the field, he's one of the Cowboys' best defensive players, and last year when he was healthy, was one of the best defensive players in all the NFL from a pass rushing productivity standpoint. 8 sacks in 8 games. He was stupid good. The problem is, David Irving is failing at the most important ability, availability. He's never available. The dude played about a full game's worth of snaps because he was limited in the 2 games he actually did play. So I'll ask you, are you guys fed up and done with David Irving? Because I certainly am. He is not going to be back next year for the Dallas Cowboys. It is absolutely time for him to go. It makes no sense for David Irving to stay with the Dallas Cowboys. I know you can get him cheap. He's not worth the headache anymore. He's absolutely not worth it. It's time for David Irving to go and for the Cowboys to move on from David Irving. I'm typing an A for yes. You just don't need him anymore on the Cowboys roster. Hey Cowboys fans, thanks for watching the Cowboys Report. If you haven't already, click right here to subscribe to our channel for all the best Cowboys coverage on the internet. That's news, rumors, highlights, mailbags, film studies, and a whole lot more. And I'm making your lives a little bit easier as well with the next Cowboys Report video right here.